Still repping my SpoilerCon shirt because it's so comfy. I just don't take it off.
It's a nice shirt.
It really is.
It looks nice. Are you saying you need a bath after never taking it off?
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice segue. But yeah, I wanted to just say I'm getting really excited about SpoilerCon because JordanCon is over and we are spinning up at full speed. Things are finalizing and hopefully we'll have some really fun announcements soon.
We have one announcement that Jamie's joining us. I mean, that's basically all the news that we're going to need.
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's really all you should need to know. Jamie's going to be there.
Okay.
Do we want to do anything? Do we want to shout out the Jesus Christ, Seth, give me a second. Okay, so we have to start out this with the caveat that both Jamie and I are extremely jet lagged and have not gotten enough sleep since JordanCon. So before we get going, please forgive me if I can't actually finish a sentence for this entire podcast. I'm working on it. I just need one more night of good sleep and I'll be back to normal. Jamie, it sounds like you need a whole week.
Yeah, I definitely need a whole week. I feel like the Wheel of Time is maybe the only thing I'm fit to talk about. But making small talk, setting up podcasts, that's all difficult right now.
Yeah, it really is. Now, are you going Jay or Jamie?
Jay.
Jay.
I know Colin makes it difficult. I yelled at him more.
Co-hosts, man, they require wrangling.
A firm hand.
We sure do. Yeah. JordanCon was such a blast. It was so good to see you and Colin from RandlandTVPodcast. We spent probably too much time together.
Way too much time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should have actually split up a little bit more, but you know how it goes. You meet people that you get along with, and you just end up hanging out all weekend. So.
We formed a clan, so it's okay.
We really did. Which is even funny because we didn't really plan. I guess we talked about recording this episode at the con, and then it just never occurred to me the entire time we were there.
I just assumed we weren't doing it because Aradia wasn't able to make it with us. So I was like, okay, we'll probably do this after.
I'm sorry.
That's entirely fair. I think we could have gotten her to call in, but I think once, if Radia had been there, it would have been perfect. But yeah.
Yeah, then we definitely would have hopped in a room on a couch.
Yeah, my lack of being at JordanCon just gets more acutely disappointing with every successful story of interactions and shenanigans that I hear. But I'll be there next year, I promise, on water oath.
I plan on rubbing it in for at least the next 2 months until SpoilerCon.
That's fair.
Yeah. I'm going to spend all of SpoilerCon just telling you how great JordanCon was. No, I'm just kidding. No. Aradia's evil plot was just to make everyone come to Aradia for SpoilerCon.
Yes, that's exactly the plan. You want to hang out with me, you have to come to the event that I'm organizing.
Yes, exactly. And it worked. Now I'm wrangling all these people to come to Portland for SpoilerCon.
Don't mind my social anxiety. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
You're truly an introvert when you get an event to come to you so you don't have to go to it.
Yeah, pretty much. Someone should have told me that years ago.
I've definitely planned to hibernate and sleep for the entire week leading up to SpoilerCon so that I don't have to sleep while I'm there.
The one nice thing is it is a 2-day event, not a 3-day event. So, you can kind of come and still actually have a day to recover and get back to life. Or just a day, Sunday to hang out, whatever.
That's what I did at the 2019 one. And it was really nice. I definitely got Bloody Marys and a lot of cheese on Sunday.
There's so many good places to eat in Portland. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people is Portland's a great city and you should definitely explore it. There's great places to check out.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to come either the week before or the week after just to hang and rest and eat. Prepare my body for SpoilerCon.
Nice.
Yeah, the lesson I took is take a full week. If you're going to a con, don't think you can do it over just the weekend.
Don't do an entire week of shooting commercials like I did before JordanCon.
Seth, it looks like we are muted in the Discord.
Oh no!
I am so sorry. Let me see what's going on there.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
But yes, hi everyone. We're here. You're here. It's happening. It's happening. But like honestly, this chapter is not fun inducing at all. It's hilarious, but in an eye-rolling sort of way.
It does make it is a chapter that makes me like Min quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because she just slaps some sense into Rand. So I'm like, finally, like someone's just like, no, I'm not going away, you dumbass. Like,
yeah.
It took long enough, and so it's one of those things where the initial setup is kind of stupid.
Yes.
We all agree that like Jordan missed
definitely not needed, but it does highlight
yeah.
how great Min is, and Min is like the pattern's answer to this is what you need, Rand. You need someone like Min who makes sense.
Right. Yeah, Min is wonderful.
Chapter 33, a bath, and our symbol is the dragon from the banner.
Dragon in a box.
Yep.
Dragon in a bath.
There is a box. It's interesting. He's kind of breaking out of the box, though.
A little bit. He is in a deep, dark hole of his own making, and Min takes a sledgehammer to it and is like, no, dumbass. Stop being. And it's like he's like not eating and not sleeping. And it's like, you expect to save the world without eating or sleeping and changing clothes or leaving your room. Like, you're having a tantrum.
It's nice being a warder.
Yeah, fair. But you can't negotiate peace. You can't lead armies. Like none of these things will happen if you just stay in this room because you did a bad thing. Like it's just, how do you savior?
How do you say?
How do you savior?
Yeah,
that's good. I like that.
It's silly, but fortunately, Nandera sends Min in, and we get out of this absolute gear grinding rut.
Right, and it is nice that like it's both introduced and resolved in this chapter.
Yes. Oh my god.
So it's not like, oh, we have one chapter where Rand's moaning and complaining about Min, and then we're in his head for 3 books. I mean, no, sorry, it's Aaron.
Accurate.
I was just going to say Robert Jordan does a really good job of like concisely setting up Rand's self-loathing and this like chapter of masochism, but then quickly like relieves us of it to move things forward so that we don't have to wallow in it as long as Rand obviously has been.
Yeah.
And like he's had sex with Aviendha. I don't understand this like I don't get consensual sex because he's had it, right? Like
exactly. That it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. And it's like one thing it made me think about is that there's no religion in Randland, but he's demonstrating this almost like religious guilt that doesn't seem reflective of the other Aemon's Fielders. Like the way Rand acts, you would think someone like Will Alcine would have been like burned at the stake at Aemon's Field a long time ago. It doesn't add up. He's the only one that takes it to this like self-punishing extreme where he just doesn't understand consent and is not comfortable with sex, period.
It's so weird. Like how confused and self-centered do you have to be to not realize that your partner is into it?
It's disturbing.
Like as a person who has had sex, I find this confusing.
She obviously reciprocated with enthusiasm, and then he rewrote the entire experience in his mind to him forcing him. He says like, I forced myself on her or on you. And that part really disturbed me.
Yeah, it's just like, you have your eyes and ears closed the whole time?
Maybe
like,
he did.
Yeah. More of that Protestant guilt. No, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Okay, you want to know my theory? Kinky sex.
I mean, yeah.
That was like, it was completely vanilla with Aviendha and not so much with Min. And that like he got confused somewhere in there exactly about what was consensual.
Yeah, like blind passion, and he scared himself.
Maybe there were blindfolds, like
definitely not. I mean, do you think Min wasn't on top at any point? I mean, like I doubt that. Are you kidding me? No.
Right? Yeah, it's just like, no, Min was way too into this for you to have missed that message. It's just
Min is definitely a top, if not a switch, and he was just very, very confused and scared of his own sexuality.
Yeah. That's yes.
And there's nothing different about Min that would make him like particularly think like. There's nothing like with Avienda, like you could see maybe she doesn't know about sex, or she's a maiden, she's a warrior. Min doesn't have any of those excuses. She's a woman of the world. She's been around. She's experienced.
She's been a bartender.
Yeah, like it's just like what I'm so confused as to why Jordan even put this in here, like as a mistake. Like that's why I say I think it's a miss. You know, like make a setup where like he's like, oh, I thought I hurt you at the end or something like that. Or like...
Or not about her at all. Like, he's dealing with enough shit he could just be going through. Obviously, he's depressed, right? And she pulls him out of it with her, like, radical candor. Because there's so many instances of characters that you're just like, hey, tell your friend how you're feeling. That's not hard. Just tell... And they don't. And that's, like, you know, frustrating. And Min is not one of those people. Min will tell you how she's feeling and what she's thinking and is very direct. And that's why she's so refreshing and we love her. And it's what Rand needs. So there's other ways to set that up.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. There's so many reasons for him to be depressed and hiding in his room and needing to be gently slapped out of it. The sex thing just doesn't ring true to the characters or common sense.
Totally.
But we could actually get into the chapter if you want. So.
Yeah, I guess I should read us in. We already sort of talked about a fair amount of this. The days after sending Perrin away seemed endless to Rand, and the nights longer. He retreated to his rooms and stayed there, telling the maidens to allow no one to enter. Only Nandira was allowed past the doors with the gilded suns, bringing his meals. The sinewy maiden would set down a covered tray and list those who had asked to see him, then give him a look of rebuke when he repeated that he would see no one. Often he heard disapproving comments from the maidens outside before she pulled the door shut behind her. He was intended to hear, else they would have used hand talk. But if they thought to chivvy him out by claiming that he was sulking, the maidens did not understand, and might not if he explained, if he could have brought himself to. He picked at the meals without appetite and tried to read, but his favorite books could divert him for only a few pages even in the beginning. At least once every day, though he had promised himself he would not, he lifted the massive wardrobe of polished blackwood and ivory in his bedchamber, floated it aside on flows of air, and carefully unraveled the traps he had set and the mirror of mists that made the wall seem smooth, all inverted so no other eyes but his could see. There, in the niche hollowed out with the power, stood two small statues of white stone about a foot tall, a woman and a man, each in flowing robes and holding a clear crystal sphere overhead in one hand. The night he set the army in motion towards Ilion, he had gone to Ruidian, alone to fetch those Terangrial. If he needed them, he might not have much time. That was what he told himself. His hand would stretch toward the bearded man, the only one of the pair a man could use. Stretch out and stop, shaking. One finger touching and more of the one power than he could imagine could be his. With that, no one could defeat him. No one stand against him. With that, Lanfear had said once, he could challenge the Creator.
Can challenge the Creator!
I have the power!
Yeah, he's having a bit of a god complex.
I'm vaguely excited about the He-Man reboot. I don't know if you've seen that.
I couldn't tell.
Hey, it was my childhood. They are repackaging it and selling it right back to me, and I want to eat that shit up. So,
no, I'm excited too. Could be good.
I like Kevin Smith. Anyway, he went and got the Terangrial. Mm-hmm. That was back in chapter 7, I think, of this book, based on my research.
So it's after he sent Perrin away? Before he sent Perrin away?
Before he sent Perrin away.
This is one of those army things. I'm just like, military stuff, whatever.
Yeah, it says the night he set the army in motion toward Ilion. That's when he went to Ruidion.
Do I look like I know when that was?
That's what, because he's trying to set up a distraction, right? So he tries to send Matt with him. He doesn't go. So then he goes, then he sends Matt off to get Elaine. Mm-hmm. And he sets the army
that's
in motion at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he's had these for a minute, and he has these because he's planning on the cleansing, right? Like, that's why he has them.
That was going to be my question. Like, is it clear now that he knows the purpose for them and he's waiting for the timing to be right? I think he is, but
I think he is, but I don't think he has figured out how.
How?
Right? He just knows he needs a lot of power. I think he might be gathering these for the last battle. Because it's not until Thane cuts him, which hasn't happened yet, and he gets the opposing beats of the taint
evil on evil, yeah,
evil on evil, that he realizes that there really is this sort of cancellation factor, and that's what clues him in. There's a few other things, but that's really, I think, the key to understanding.
Huh. Okay, yeah, I always have interpreted this to be he just is ready for the cleansing, but then it's like, when did he come up with the ideas? Like, so I like that he's like, clearly this is going to be important for the last battle, which it ends up not being, but hey, it's a reasonable expectation at this point, and he doesn't know when the last battle's going to come, so it makes sense to be ready for it.
If anything, I'd say they kick off the last battle. His destruction of the Choden Call and Reins of Gold is really what, for him, is like, okay, now I can fight.
Oh, he does destroy the Choden Call, doesn't he? And the cleansing destroys the female Choden Call, which triggers the key. Well, no, it shatters. Doesn't it shatter the globe? It triggers the Amayar all committing mass suicide, I guess.
But that's just because it glows.
Yeah, no, you're right. It glows. It doesn't break. But yeah, the cleansing does set off that, which I never really understood how that plot arc figures into anything.
Yeah, I felt like that too.
I don't, but it feels,
just the completion of a prophecy somewhere.
It's probably a misinterpreted prophecy, honestly, since they're so irrelevant. The pattern's like, we don't need to course correct on that. Like, you'll all be reborn in the next age anyway. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Ouch.
But yeah, he knows he's going to use them for something big and ginormous, and that's why he's having a god complex. It's mine by right. I'm the dragon reborn. Rah! Let me throw furniture.
Yeah. I feel like this, even though he's not hearing the voices, like really demonstrates like sort of the struggle between like who Lews Therin was and how Rand was raised better, because he is super tempted and he keeps touching it, but he's still smart and more disciplined to not use it. Even right now when he's like starving and tired and irrational and thinks he raped his girlfriend.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally think that Lews Therin would have grabbed them and started flinging lightning bolts about at this point. That's got to be. The restraint is very much a Tam thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think LTT and Lanfear were better together than LTT likes to admit. I was going to say.
I mean, they were a power couple, Mm-hmm. I think it was just that she was willing to do things for that power that he wasn't. I think they would have been extremely successful together.
They're probably like a very rock star sort of relationship, know?
Like, on again, off again, a lot of drama.
Yeah, really hot and bothered and just...
When they're together, it's spectacular. When they're apart, it's a huge disaster for, the entire wheel.
Right, and she's like the ultimate fangirl, right? Like, think of the glory, right? She's just an ultimate, like, jealous ex-girlfriend plus groupie kind of thing.
Yeah. I'd like to do an episode where we speculate, like, what would the world look like if Lanfear and LTT just rolled together? If he was like, all right, let's see what we can make happen. Like, maybe it would be fun. Maybe it would be as bad as we all think.
I mean, they would take out the other Forsaken pretty effectively. So that would be good.
Yeah.
That would be good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It would be a cinch for them. A cinch. They would have fun doing it.
And then they'd challenge the creator and the Dark One, and it would all blow up, and that would be not great.
Especially if they had the Choden Call. Can you imagine the two of them linked with the Choden Call, just like being like, "Hey, Samael, how you doing?
We're just on our way over to your buddy Shaitan's house.
Yeah. Would you like to swear fealty or balefire?"
Yeah.
But Rand somehow is better than all of that.
It's all the Tam upbringing.
That's
and the puritanical guilt that the Two Rivers somehow maintains, despite the lack of a church.
Yeah, it made me think, like, is Tam super like strict when it comes to sex and stuff? Like, is that where he's getting it? I don't know.
Well, he didn't have a wife after Rand was age 5, and given how little any of the characters in the books talk to each other about anything, Rand probably figured storks were how babies came into the world, you know?
Or, like, and whatever he learned, he would have learned from the wisdom of the two rivers, which is Nynaeve. So that's embarrassing, right? He's not hearing any of that. Nope.
That's just squirming out of your chair the entire time kind of conversation.
Now I'm just imagining Nynaeve teaching a sex education class, putting the condom on the banana.
She would.
Nynaeve would just be like, she'd be like, if you have sex, you will get pregnant and die. Like in Mean Girls, where they're like, you will get an STD and then you will
all
die.
the really graphic
That's
pictures
Nynaeve's
of like,
sex
this will happen if you have sex.
Yeah.
That's not maybe, will.
Yes. Yeah, I will not heal that.
Right? Yeah, totally.
You can go to Terran Ferry for that business.
And the one person is like, well, what about safe sex? Here's some sheep's tongue root. Enjoy.
Right, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're all about the lambskin condoms at Randland.
Right. It'd be like, I heard about Heartleaf tea. That's an urban legend.
Yeah. Yeah, Two Rivers contraception. Ladies and gents.
Just don't. Just say no.
Yeah. The best sex is no sex.
Right. Yeah.
Rand.
Kind of like the best interacting with the world is not interacting with the world at all.
I feel like my only sympathy for Rand might be, I doubt there's much polyamory going on in the Two Rivers. So it is sort of jumping to the next level for him.
But he spent months with the Aiel. He's got a concept that the world can be different. Like,
there is a point in this chapter where he's like, I'm not an Aiel, and it's like, yeah, excuse me, actually you are an Aiel, so maybe you need to reconcile with your identity a little bit. And like, did you learn nothing?
You're not just genetically Aiel, like you've spent months with them, like you claim to be their leader, like own that.
You've embraced the heritage on your arms, like, yeah.
You're the chief of chiefs. You can probably have double wives. Like, you're gonna have more than anybody
Seriously,
else.
if you get 2 wives per dragon, isn't that 4 total?
Seriously. Yeah.
Like, that's what I imagine. It's you get a wife per arm and a wife per dragon, right? So,
or maybe the third dragon is on a different limb.
Don't put bad ideas into people's minds when they show up with like double dragon tattoo sleeves as spoiler con. Like, I get 4 wives now.
But Rand is having a really tough time because he's having a bunch of like PTSD dreams, right? When he does sleep, he's either having dreams of Colliver hanging herself, Maidens being dead, throwing Perrin across the courtyard and being afraid he's going to kill him, being in the box and being beaten, taking the Ashaman to the White Tower and having all of the Aes Sedai, even his allies, destroy the Ashaman. Like, that is all very real trauma for him to be trying to work through, and a lot of PTSD that's like, he doesn't have headspace to deal with how he feels about Min because he's just being barraged by nightmares awake and asleep.
And that might be his one excuse for sort of projecting all of that onto his relationship with Min and coming up with the rape scenario. It might not be like, yes, he might be very obvious what didn't happen if he stopped to think about it, but he feels so shitty right now. He has to assume he did something bad.
Yeah, no, the lack of autonomy and consent that he's dealing with, it makes sense that he could project that onto Min. I mean, he gets to the point where he's feeling comforted by Alana's presence, which is like Stockholm syndrome much?
That was exactly what I was going to say, because I don't have the line pulled up, but, he says that was a comfort to him, and that might have been the most disturbing of all. And, that incident where like it was completely non-consensual and she forced this bond on him, like, is something, a contributing factor to his PTSD. And that could be why he's projecting this onto Min as well.
Or maybe because he's been basically raped with the bond, he's projecting a rape down onto Min.
Yeah, he's afraid.
He kind of, right, and it's that thing where he's kind of enjoying the bond and the benefits that it given him, and we can again come up with rape scenarios where it's like, oh, if you enjoyed it, it wasn't rape, right? And it's like, that's not what's going on. He's getting some benefits from having a order bond, and he's taking some comfort in it. Doesn't mean it still wasn't involuntary and bad.
Yeah. I find Alana and Rand's relationship fascinating, so it is fun to go back because I think Dumais Wells and her role in his recovery starts the shift in their relationship. But obviously that's not something he wants to admit. But like, I think this is like the first sign that maybe like there's some hope there to like do some reparation between them, that he's starting to feel like it's a comfort.
Right. I mean, she's at least she is at this point the least terrible assault that has happened to him. Like he's been assaulted so many times in so many ways that like she is now the person who ostensibly means well, so she's good. It's awful. It's completely awful.
There's a Thailand analogy in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Ugh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so he's not having a great time.
I did have a question here. He says he's thinking about he's almost starting his list, right? Coliver, silent and accusing, with all the maidens who had died for him arrayed behind him in staring silent ranks. All the women who died because of him. He knew every face as well as his own, and every name but one. What's the one he doesn't know the name of?
The nameless dark friend that he beheaded in TDR?
I think that's what it's a reference to. I couldn't like...
What about the child in the Stone of Tear?
She was... I don't think he counts her as...
Yeah, because he failed to bring her back to life.
Okay.
What about...
Yeah.
There's that woman who gets shot when he's in procession. That might be further on.
They find out her name.
Oh, okay.
He makes them find out her name. Yeah.
So yeah, every name, but it's got to be the dark friend. But you'd think that he wouldn't mind.
I don't think he would feel bad about that. He doesn't seem to feel bad about dark friends, except for like Lanfear. He's got weird rules about, but
I think he does feel. I don't think it matters, even if they are dark friends to him.
Right, he killed a woman. So,
right, it just
and he's built the list at this point. He has
he?
Because Perrin finds him reciting the list in the aftermath of Dumais Wells.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So the list exists. So he's been getting every name at this point religiously. So it's got to be the dark friend in TDR. Don't know why he'd still feel guilt about her at this point. Get over it.
Seriously, Rand? Like, that's even crazier. Like,
I mean, I don't think it's entirely possible she wasn't a dark friend, that a gray man was using the caravan to get close to him.
She says, oh no, I'm thinking the one that attacks.
No, she's a dark.
Yeah, well, I think she's a dark friend, so I think Grant should get over it.
Yeah, same.
And Lews Therin has abandoned him. Lews Therin was the voice that gave him comfort when he was literally in the box, and now Lews Therin isn't there, and that's giving him angst also.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because Codswain called it out and said, you have a voice in your head. And that scared Rand so bad that he shut down that portion, which I think was an outlet for a lot of his insanity. And I think he's actually internalizing a bit of his insanity now. Right?
He's being his insane self now.
Yeah, he's being his insane self.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
I think that makes sense.
That like rather than having this voice in his head that is expressing the insanity that he can suppress and fight off, when that voice goes away, that means Rand himself is like being like a little nuts. And that might be somewhere where this rape thing is coming from. And then, like, there's a whole series of events, right, of him being a little crazy, right? He goes and sees the sea folk, and on that ecstasy, he goes out and, like, tries to deal with the rebels. And then, like, that leads to him being cut, right? And that leads to the end of the book, where he ends up having, he recovers from that and is like, oh, I'm going to unexpectedly attack. I believe it's Samael. Yeah, which leads to Mashadar, right?
Yeah.
So, which, the crossing of the streams, like, all of that comes from, essentially, this moment.
So it's like he's been compartmentalizing, and Cadsuane just like swept all of that away. And now all the compartments are gone, and he's just swimming in a mess of his own insanity and trauma. And he builds those walls back up over the course of the next several weeks. But it takes a minute.
Yeah. Well, there's the point where he misinterprets Min's vision in this chapter also, and takes that as like confirmation that he's actually not insane.
Incorrect.
Little does he know that's not what that means. But it is what he needed to hear in that moment.
Sure.
So again, Min is like showing up when needed, when the pattern needs her to help Rand along.
I love the foreshadowing that gives us for the end of this book. That the crossing of the streams hasn't happened yet, but that prophecy is a reference to the crossing of the streams. And yet also it's foreshadowing the end of this book in a lot of ways, which I really love that Jordan sort of throws that in there and then misdirects us in a completely different direction.
So much misdirection. It's taken me how many reads to realize how confused I am? I don't even know what's happening. I didn't realize that I didn't know what was happening.
Like in what way?
Oh, just how the crossing of the streams factors into everything that happens with Rand and how the body swap works at the end. It's like there are questions I didn't know I needed to be asking.
Right.
Much less having the answers to.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, someone asked me, I called into the Legendarian podcast when they were talking about the crossing of the streams, and I was like, they're non-spoilers, so I was like, so how do you feel like the crossing of the streams dealt with the paradox of bale firing itself? What do you think about that? And then they went off on that one for a little while, but every once in a while, I didn't say who I was, but every once in a while someone's like, I heard your voice on the podcast. Did you ask a question? I'm like, yeah, I did. I had a little fun with that one. I snuck that one in there for them a little bit, because they were definitely like, well, that's weird. I didn't even think about that. And I was like, yeah. But I love this prophecy as a reference to that, and realizing that it's really all about the body swap and has nothing to do with LTT.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Rand is wrong.
Shockingly.
I just love that Min drops these bombs, and there's so many instances like in between in the books where she gives, she reads viewings that are like immediately satisfied, like, oh, something's gonna happen at the tower, or and they pay off really quickly. But then you have ones like An Eye of the World and here that you have to wait, but they are really like tipping you off to like major things that are gonna happen.
Yeah, and then also like dropping that in between things like, I need a dress made. Like, I love how complicated she is.
Yeah, Min partially wakes Rand out of his stupor just because she's so hot. And he's like, I'm too tired to tell you to go away. You're so hot and smart.
Right. She shows up and she's like, you need to snap out of it, custom order me a dress, and also here's a really important prophecy that you're going to immediately misinterpret. Like, she contains multitudes, and I love her.
I like how the holiday she's buying the dress for is the Day of Repentance, which comes after the Festival of Birds.
The Day of Repentance.
I have to wonder if maybe this, because like, there's a holiday leading up to the Festival of the Birds, and then you have the Festival of the Birds, and now you have the Day of Repentance afterwards. I feel like we're getting like a little like Christmas holiday where you like sort of
cut loose.
You cut loose, you celebrate, you have this big holiday, and then it's like, I'm very sorry for everything that I have done. That was
and it's New Year's. I'm going to promise not to do that again for the rest of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
What's your Day of Repentance resolutions?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rand's like, my whole life, I regret. That's all he spent the entire week
and he's over here like, I shouldn't even want to live past Tarmin Gaiden. I don't deserve to live. It's just like,
Robert Jordan was having a little bit of fun with that. Like, come on, Rand, let's celebrate the Day of Repentance. Like,
he's like, I should die, but I can't until I've done my Jesus thing.
I also love, I think at one point he's like, what do I smell? And Min just like,
right, and he's like scratching
anything,
at the same time.
You know,
like,
he's like, what? I'm good. I don't know. What are you talking about?
It's like, that's because you haven't opened a window and you've acclimated to your own stench.
Yeah, he's been like sweating through night terrors for like 5
and not
days.
even changing his clothes. It's like, no, you stink. You stink bad.
Yeah, after his like passionate sex too. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. So yeah, Min is like, I don't understand why Alana was frantic, but I see why she was frantic because
I don't know how.
Yeah, which like makes sense because they know that Alana helped track him down to Dumai as well. So at this point, it's becoming pretty obvious that there's a water bond here.
If you're paying attention, you should realize that.
Yeah. Even people who don't know much about these things, it's like she knows where he is and she knows if he's in distress. I wonder what other times Aes Sedai know this about men. But yeah, apparently Alana is the reason why Min has gone in and why Nandera let Min in because she's Min. But There was a team of people being like, Min, you're the only one who can get to him. Which, again, you'd think all of these women pushing Min in there says that Min is clearly not reluctant, because multiple women are like, yeah, you seem like the one who's good to go in there.
Yeah.
And then, he is like, okay, so I feel so guilty and terrible about everything. I'm just going to tell you I'm insane. And then I'm hearing voices. And it's like, on the one hand, yay, you're finally talking to someone and discussing what's going on with you. But on the other hand, like, what a reason to spill the beans.
Can I also just say, like, this is about the closest we get to an actual sex scene from Robert Jordan. It's his own characters describing themselves having sex, but it's like this, I remember ripping your shirt off your back because you couldn't pull it over your head fast enough to suit me. You know, it's like, oh, really?
Right.
Like this.
He's regretting running his hands down her back. It's like...
Right. We're sort of, wait a minute, we're getting a little bit of that. Because Jordan doesn't very often write the physicalness of sex. And here we actually have those characters describing it themselves rather than us seeing it.
Right.
Yeah. And Min is the queen of like the female gaze. Like, like, thank you, Min, for describing the Dragon Reborn's abs.
Counting them
Otherwise,
out.
we'd never know. Yes, exactly. Like,
No, I mean, who's excited for this in the TV show, right? Like,
it's gonna be a bath scene.
Yes.
I can only imagine reading this as the actor and being like, oh, God, I have to do this? Oh, no.
Right? And like looking at The Witcher, being like, oh, it's going to be that kind of bath scene. Okay.
Oh. Someone on Twitter of Time said that they confirmed there would be no more bath scenes in The Witcher season 2. And then they said, what's the point?
Yeah.
Someone else at JordanCon said, the only problem I have with casting, because I'm such a huge Matt fan, is that I saw the casting and I said, oh my God, he's so young and I'm so old. I can't like him anymore. It's only appropriate in fiction. And I feel that same way too. It's like, I've gotten older since I picked up these books, but there's a problem with characters. They stay the same age.
Yeah, because I remember looking up to the older Matt, the older Rand, oh, I can't wait until I'm old enough to date Egwene, like that's...
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, these children.
Now I'm like a cougar. I'm still excited for the show. And I mean, we're allowed to watch the bath scenes if Amazon tells us.
If they film it, we're allowed to watch.
They got permission from the actors. That's all. Yeah.
Exactly.
But stop pulling shit off their phones, people. Leave them alone. Leave the actors alone.
Yeah, leave the actors alone. Just enjoy the content after it's been presented. Otherwise, chill.
Yes.
Chill.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not going to want to make more seasons, and then we all lose.
Yes.
I want the actors to be able to follow each other on Instagram without being stalked for it.
Totally.
So weird, respecting people's privacy.
Speaking of privacy, one of the things I like in this chapter is that, obviously Ren has minimal privacy when it comes to the maidens. And he's comfortable being like naked around, like he's given up, like being naked around the maidens, being bathed by them. And there's like 2 instances, I think, of them talking within earshot, knowing he can overhear them. And I think it's a good reminder that in contrast to Rand's perception of himself being like this monster, it's like, if he was a monster, the maidens wouldn't be talking about him, making fun of him in earshot. They'd be tiptoeing around him. They'd be afraid. We've seen monsters like that in fantasy, and that's not Rand. He's like their little brother. And like, he's never, done anything horrible to be a monster to them.
Yeah. Or if they thought that he was a terrible, monstrous person, they would like castrate him. Like,
right. That too. Or that.
Yeah, I have no doubt that they beat him up for sneaking away. They would definitely beat him up for assaulting someone.
Maidens kiss, the hard version.
Right? right? Yeah.
Oh, you rape someone, we're going to push the spear just a little bit towards your... Well, we're not going to call it your throat. It's not
Yeah,
your throat.
they wouldn't kill him, but I could definitely see him being unmanned permanently.
Yeah. I thought this was really funny. They said, yes, he is very modest, she said, agreeing with Melandara, a woman more rounded than most maidens with the darkest hair Rand had seen on any Aiel. And she says, modesty is a man's crowning glory. And that just made me laugh out loud, which for Rand, I'm sure he loves that.
Things that also make me laugh out loud is Min's entire like yelling thing at Rand. Like, do you think I'm a doll? Do you think I couldn't tell you this? And then there's this line about like, well, maybe like you think that you're not worth loving, so you're calling me stupid for loving you, which like,
yep.
This line hits really close to home. Really, really close to home, because I have issues believing that people care about me, and I'm just like, I want Min to yell at me. I think maybe I would learn better if Min yelled at me.
Relationship imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
See, this is why you should have been at JordanCon, because you would have had 3 days of people going Aradia and giving you big hugs, and it would have solved all of your imposter syndrome because people would have loved you. Trust me, it's a huge ego boost.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anybody can speak to the veracity of that, it would be you. So we've talked about our imposter syndrome enough. So
it doesn't go away, though. That's the funny part about it. Like, it's still there. You're like, the more and the better you do, you'd think you're like, oh, I'm doing better and better and better. You would think that would obviously mean that you should be doing better. The opposite is true. You still think you're a piece of shit, and the better you do, the more you're like, why is this happening? What's wrong with people? Oh my God, you're crazy. Like, the more successful you are, the worse the imposter syndrome gets.
Yeah, and it's not just professional. It can happen in your personal life too. And you're like, you've put up with my bullshit for so many years. This makes no sense. Zero sense.
Yeah. And I had a brief discussion with Daniel Green, and he tweets about this all the time about how hard it is, and it's like, yeah, it's no better for him than it is for us. If anything, it's worse because he's big.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say, I think it's like a credit to Robert Jordan how well like that entire speech from Min has aged. I mean, obviously, like it's what we need to cut through all of Rand's bullshit in this, but it's super relevant to a lot of people. Like, do I really deserve to be loved? Am I self-sabotaging because I don't believe it? And Min knows herself really well, and she's confident in herself more than probably anybody. Like even the other power girls like need time to figure out who they are, but like Min just knows, cuts through all that bullshit, which is great.
One of the things I love about Min is somehow she found herself before the book started and like has that on lock, and it's really great. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I admire her so much. Mostly it's her excellent intelligence, but her self-confidence and her knowledge of herself it's good. I mean, it gives us the wonderful line, like, we comforted each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like, you have to have some self-confidence to deliver that line.
Mm-hmm. She's advocating for like women's agency, period, which like Rand just constantly denies. So like by the time she says this, you're like, thank God, like someone said it out loud, because we've all been thinking it like and frustrated by it, and she finally screams what we've all been internalizing for Rand's entire life.
Yeah.
And speaking of agency, no, you will not send me away. It is my choice to stay, and you don't get to make that choice for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Even though you've made it for Elaine, you made it for Avienda. I mean, Elaine had to leave, and Avienda will be back. But like, still, he's like, I've sent them both away, and it's like, yeah, and you shouldn't have been able to. They should have only left on their own accord.
Yeah, in fairness, Min is the only one that doesn't have like other obligations to balance with her relationship with Rand. But yeah, the idea that he has a right to decide anything is just like, stop.
There's an inn somewhere that is missing a barmaid, and it is suffering.
It's true.
I do love, there's great descriptions of Min's fashion, obviously, but I do love like him describing her breeches and how snug and how wonderful the silk is, and just like how Min has come up in the world also because she deserves it. And even though she's not a queen or a warrior or whatever, like Min's got it going on, and she's super clever, and he needs her around.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about this interaction is when he's like, shut up or I'll spank you. And that works. And it's just like, you were doing so good, Jordan. You were doing so good. And then you just whiffed it at the last.
The spanking trope is a trope.
Yeah.
That he just... Perrin does it. Rand threatens it.
Matt does it. Not to his romantic partners, but...
No. No, it was acceptable.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was just something you did when you were in disagreement with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine at the Black Tower, instead of like high-fiving each other, they just spank each other on the bum all the time. They're like, hey man,
like
and then they go, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the Black Tower is like.
I like that.
Nice job.
That is some
nice
spanking
ass.
I can get behind, because it would be
It's an
so
Asha'man
random.
greeting. Yeah.
Well, it's like you want to present, shaking hands immediately came from presenting your hand and showing you weren't holding a weapon. And basically, if you're a channeler, turning your back on somebody is a way of saying, I can't see you, so you're not a threat to me. But you want the other person to actually touch you, so they're there. So that's where this butt touch slap came from, is the Asha'man sort of saying, I acknowledge you, and I see you as a safety person. The other person saying, I acknowledge you, and butt slap ensues.
Yeah. Or maybe it's more like the TSA, where they really got to like get a grip and pat you down and make sure you don't have any like terangrial hanging out. So they're just a little bum tap and all right, you're good to go.
No little fat man in your
Yeah. It's just a little it's just a honey cake.
Oh, I got stopped on my way back. I had a double-edged razor handle in my blade, but no blade in it, right? Because I knew that. But they pulled it out and searched my bag because I had the blade, or I had the handle on there.
Oh no!
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Man.
The other good thing we get out of this exchange is that Rand finally gets at least some information about how Elaine and Aviendha and Min all fit into this thing. Because she's like, life would have been so much easier if I wasn't brought up to be fair. But in fairness, I have to tell you that there are literally 3 women who are interested in you, and we aren't pulling each other's hair out over it. And that's again, thank God somebody is communicating about anything.
Yes.
The key to any polyamorous relationship is communication, and that's why Min's so great, because she becomes the hub of communication. Nobody else is talking to each other, but everybody talks to Min.
Yep, she is the hinge in that quad.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you compare 2 sunrises?
Oh my God. One of the most romantic lines ever. Honestly, it's you should have led with that, Rand. You'd have a lot less trouble with girls if you just could lead with that.
Yeah. It's okay, Rand, maybe you can understand polyamory. It's in you, if you just let go of your weird views from childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's also like, if I told you half of the viewings, then that. And he's like, really? Half? And she's like, I was exaggerating.
Mm-hmm. She's like, just 1.
Or 3, or,
I can think of 2.
Yeah.
Well, the one she tells him. And Moraine.
Yep, because...
She has not mentioned that he can't win without a woman who's dead and gone.
Because she doesn't want to give him conflicting false hope or false despair or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which to me makes me wonder... If she told him, it would have been a clue that Moraine was still alive. You wouldn't dream that unless there was still a chance that, she could come back.
Right. He's thoroughly proven you can't bring people back from the dead. So in order for her to come back, she has to not be dead.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But then he might have tried to go rescue her, and that would have ended in so many levels of disaster. So,
as we know from the letter.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be Matt and the 2 others, and that's it. But if Rand went off and tried to hack his way into the tower and of Genji and all of that, bad things would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm just imagining Rand in Finland. You
just blow it up.
Unhinged. But the thing is, he'd try and blow it up, and then he'd go to the next room, and it would look like nothing was blown up because of the weird way geometry works. And so he would never be able to get out. The geometry of the world itself would throw him off.
He's way too logical.
He might.
As much as we blame him for being irrational, he's far too logically minded to get through their world. It takes Matt's chaotic energy.
He's a literal person. I feel like
exactly.
Rand, but
exactly. He does not do like allegory very well at all.
No, I don't think he would survive.
No.
This guy calls himself the Dark One. He must be the Dark One.
Seriously.
Okay, Baalzamar. Yeah. Rand. Yeah. Yep. And Moraine's. That's what Moraine's just like.
Sorry, I killed him.
Really? You think you killed the Dark One?
Well, I saw the body. I mean, in fairness, that was Matt's line, but Rand was nodding to it.
I'm sorry, that made me laugh so hard. Even though it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So she mentions the Sea Folk, which we know that sort of leads him off to various accomplishments and the end of the book.
Can we just talk about Nindera's line? I should have let you in the first day. I wanted to kick him, but it is not done kicking the Karagar. Yeah. Especially the way the line gets delivered in the audiobooks. It's just like, I love Nindera. And I mean, she's Sulan's second in command and takes over for Sulan after Sulan's shame. And it's just like, I love Sulan and Nindera. There's so much good comic relief.
Yeah, they are.
Did she beat up Sulan or did Sulan beat up her? I forget.
Sulan beat up her.
Sulan beat up her.
Nindera's the one that got knocked out and lost the fight, thereby winning the authority. Because it's less G to win with force. Because I'm understanding Giotto finally after so many years.
Right. Yes, because if she'd won by like pinning her or something, she may have been able to take leadership. But I think by knocking her out, that was too far, and she had to.
Yeah.
Someone should really go as Sulan in the servant's uniform to Jordancon costume contest. That would be amazing.
Yes, super uncomfortable and crotchety and bad at curtsying.
Like carrying like a spear with like a broom on the other end or something.
A spear with like a mop handle on one side.
That would be just get yourself like a mop and just put like a spear hand tip on one end, and then just a maid's costume.
Yeah. And like, you have like a tray with some cups, but then you're constantly dropping it.
Just stalking around. Yeah.
Do that thing where the cups are attached by a little string to the bottom of it, and you can pull the string tight, which locks the cups in. And then you like hold the tray, and then you drop it and let go of the strings, and the cups all fall over.
Okay, Seth, I think you should do the costume.
Yes. I'm kind of excited about it. I'm like, I need myself a maid costume, a mop handle with a spear on it, and a custom tray.
That should not be difficult to acquire.
Good to go.
JordanCon next year. I can go Sulan.
Angry servant Sulan.
Yeah.
I have a really good resting bitch face. So, or resting mean face, whatever you want to call it.
I feel like bitch in that sense should not be a gendered term. I really feel like resting bitch face should be, it's like, in my mind, it's like dude. It applies to whoever it fucking applies to.
Yeah.
But the bath. The actual bath that is the end of the chapter where everyone's making him embarrassed. And Min is like, oh, so that's what you look like naked at a distance. That's nice. Because she's only seen him naked close up. So.
And who knows how dark it was.
Yeah. I mean, I assume it was the middle of the day, but, you know.
Well, that's a good point. It was fairly early.
Yeah, because he gets shit done after. Yeah. He's like the only person I've ever heard of just like snapping out of depression and then being super productive within like half an hour. It's just like, okay.
I might say there's some manic going on.
Yeah.
It's depressive, like just wide emotional swings. He seems to really go into this manic mode where he's like, I'm going to do the sea folk, and then I'm going to do the thing, and then I'm going to do the thing, and then like I'm going to attack, and it's like, okay.
He can either go
Chill
or
out
stop.
For a second.
He has no in-between.
Right.
He has no modulation. It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
This guy, which makes sense given his trauma, but it's also like, dude, you need like a Snickers or something. Calm down.
Snickers.
You're a Louis Theron when you're hungry.
Yeah, totally.
I love when he's getting out of the bath and Min holds up the toweling cloth and they're just like, you have to dry off sooner or later, like modest man.
Yeah, and he's like, this is really, really awkward. And she's like, yeah, but it's fun for me. So
yeah, she's like, I've seen your penis like it was a few days ago. Come on.
Did more than see it.
Yeah.
Well.
Did you want to talk any more about the prophecy and like his incorrect assumptions about it? I'm not, because I just love how delicious. I'm not insane and hearing voices. Yes, you are. Right? One lived and one died, but he had known for a long time he was going to die. At least he was not mad. No, you're still very mad.
Again, with he's so literal, he can't possibly imagine that there's another interpretation than the one he first leaps to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same problem as Elida.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why Min is there as his like prophecy research assistant, because he's so literal that he needs, the philosophers around him to put the pieces together.
Yeah. That's why he needs Tom, is because Tom can fill in for the poet part, right? Like there's that line from one of the Forsaken that like, prophecies were spoken such that only poets could understand. Like he needs a poet on staff,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Min is like the only one who can sort of interpret Herod Phil. Like Rand knows he's onto something, but is like, cool, that sounds significant. But Min's like, wait a minute. Like, I feel like, let's follow this somewhere.
Yeah. And it's about the body swap for real, and the fact that Ishamael Moradin actually gets to die. Like, it's as much about Moradin as it is about Rand. It's not just that this is a thing that's relevant to Rand. It's also relevant to this guy who's been, like, warping the world for 3,000 years. Like, he's going to finally get his earned rest.
Happy ending.
He actually gets to have his soul be recycled into the pattern.
And I really like the way she says you touched and seemed to merge into one another, and how that foreshadows them holding hands while they balefire, and that touch that pushes them together into one thread.
Right. Like they touch physically, they touch through the balefire. And
what I always thought, what I never realized before some of my rereads, is that Moradin is, of course, using the true power, and Rand is using the one power. So you have the power of the Creator and the power of the Dark One both balefiring each other at the same time. And that's why you get this sort of, like, what you do with that inconsistency. You make these two people the same thread.
That makes sense, because the balefire is a negation thing in and of itself, but now you're making it with two different powers, one of which is intrinsically unmaking the other. It's a really serious negation field, so it makes sense that they become one.
And since they're physically touching, like, you have this physically touching soul, right? So
it's, I think, it quantum entangled.
Yeah. Ooh, yes, I like that. And we know Jordan had some physics. He knew about that.
Very much so. But I mean, the way that, like, when one gets hurt, the other one hurts. When one gets angry, the other one's angry. Like, that's quantum entanglement.
That really is. Yeah. Spin up, spin down. Yeah.
Charmed.
I'm colored. Oh, wait, no, that's not anymore.
It does if you're in quantum physics world, because nothing makes sense, and there are no rules.
No.
So.
No, they pop between all three colors. It's such a weird. Because they just do the colors because of the way they combine, right? So.
I know that these are words that matter.
I like quantum physics. It's fun to watch videos.
I like hearing about it, but I can't keep track of what I hear.
I feel like I'm on the verge, right? Like I've watched enough YouTube videos that I'm almost know quantum physics, right? If I just watch a lot more YouTube, I'm sure my brain will finally wrap around it.
Didn't Feynman say that if you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics?
Yeah.
But keep going down that conspiracy rabbit hole on YouTube. I'm sure the algorithm's got you.
I'm going to follow it down. Fortunately, it's just got me going down the science rabbit hole, not the I don't think the conspiracy theory one.
Well, all of quantum physics is a conspiracy, so
you're not wrong. Yeah, no, I mean it's the gap. It's the gap in our knowledge. That's where our knowledge ends, and so like everything is like, well, we don't know.
But yes, that is a healthy rabbit hole to get deeply lost in.
Healthy?
Yeah.
compared to what else is on YouTube. Or I watched a little like report from the Wall Street Journal yesterday about how the TikTok algorithm works, which I tend to actively abuse the algorithms to do very specific things. So it's not really a problem for me, but looking at the implications for society is like, yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, TikTok is remarkably effective at figuring out what you like.
Yeah.
And it's in a scary way.
Yeah, that's what this whole thing was about. But like, I actively manipulate the algorithm in reverse. So, oh well.
To do what?
Just to create stats for the content creators that I care about, or the content that I care about. So my entire TikTok is full of activists who are not white. That's all that's on it, because I watch every single video and I hit like and follow on every single creator. So the algorithm isn't completely skewed off in the wrong direction. It's not. I'm like, where's my geology stuff? I need Rock Talk back. God damn it. But
Rock Talk seems healthy.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. There's some very charming creators on there. But I'm like, I have to like counterbalance this bullshit by like actively skewing the stats, and it doesn't know what I want because I refuse to tell it what I want.
I still have never installed TikTok. I'm happy with that decision.
It sucks time like you wouldn't fucking believe. I'm like, okay, 5 more minutes. Okay, 55 more minutes. Like, it happens like that.
I've watched Never be on it. She's like, let me show you something really quick. And she'll start to scroll. And I'll be standing there for 5 minutes being like, were you going to show me something? Oh, yeah. Like, she'll look down for a minute and just be gone. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very interesting resource, but I feel like you have to teach that algorithm who's boss. Otherwise, it will get on top of you right away.
Yeah.
But there's some really cool stuff on there. Some very inventive people divvying up some very interesting information in 3 minutes or less.
I have avoided it because I'm not ready for another platform. So I just look at what people send me. But I also just spent the last 3 days shooting TikToks for brands.
Nice.
So I really don't like TikTok
that's
right
fair.
now. They are great though. I mean, like, I see it, but I'm just like, oh, I can't. It's a rabbit hole. And I already spend way too much time on Twitter of time. So.
Yeah, mostly I was just like, Facebook's boring. I need something else to burn my brain on. And instead of doing something productive or useful with my life, I found a new social media app to get lost in, because I make healthy decisions.
Yeah, that's as healthy as Rand locking himself in his room and deciding he raped somebody.
Oh God! I think it's slightly healthier than that. That's like following activists on TikTok versus locking yourself in your room. I don't know. Aradia wins. Aradia versus Rand.
Oh, sure, yeah. But that's a low bar. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But hashtag #StopLine3, motherfuckers. Also, the term motherfuckers has some really complicated history, and I should stop saying it.
Yeah.
You mean fathers?
Well, or just people who slept with the Amberlin. I don't know.
Yeah.
So does that make Tom a motherfucker? I guess. Yeah. Well, on multiple levels.
And Gawain becomes a motherfucker.
Gawain is. Gawain counts.
Moraine, because she slept with Suon, but not while Suon was in office. So.
I was trying to remember the pillow friend of Elida. If it's Madani or...
Yeah, it's Maidani. Yeah. But she only strings her along.
Yeah. But they've been pillow friends in the past. Yeah. For JordanCon next year, Colin and I might go as Saber Neighbors, which is the Black Tower equivalent of pillow friends.
Nice. Rattle your sword around in its sheath.
I'm going to have a really big sword. I'm excited.
Just like as tall as you are.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. I'll have two, and they'll just... that's not hard to do. I probably am like average sword height.
Yeah.
Like,
just about.
Buy a normal sword.
Yeah, I remember at SpoilerCon, you were one of the few people in the world who makes me feel normal sized rather than tiny. So, like, oh my God, I actually feel like a normal sized person around you.
And of course, I went with Lauren, who's like twice my height.
Right.
So, yeah.
Colin as well is a fairly large person. He's not
tall.
Tallish.
Yeah. He's all right.
I don't know. Maybe it's just his hair.
He's gonna listen to this. Yeah, that's true.
His hair is up there.
I don't want to say how tall Colin is, but he's not like 6 foot.
No.
Yeah.
He's not a small person, is all I'm saying.
I enjoy people I don't have to like sit on a stool to talk to. Generally, that is like my rule. It is hard to be small, and I do have friends who are quite tall, and so if they sit, it's fine. But if you're out and I have to like, can you pick me up so I can hear you better? I don't like.
Freaking Nate Bliss at the con, man, he was huge. I did a lot of crank neck. Him and Sanderson too, or both. Sanderson is a very tall man.
Yes.
Just means the taller they are, the harder they fall.
Ow, no. I don't want anyone to fall.
But you sort of get where Robert Jordan comes from with all these tall characters when you realize, like, all these authors, he's tall. Like, he was a tall
Big man. Yeah. Sometimes I think, like, where would I be in life if I was tall? I think I'd just be like, I think people would just hand me money. Just kidding. That's how that works.
There's a certain amount of like, why are all these authors tall men? Think about that for a second. Like, why does height make you a good author? I don't think it does. I think it just gets you in the door.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily, but I do think there is such thing as tall privilege, and that it gives you immediate presence, right? And like this confidence factor. Not always, but I think that's why they emphasize Moiraine's stature being so petite, but having such a strong presence is that it's, at odds with her, tiny frame.
And that's why everyone thinks she's very tall.
Right.
Everyone's like, oh, Moiraine's short? I didn't realize. It's like they say it over and over and over in Kyrian and all that stuff. Yeah.
Because like height is like power. I get like that's a construct that we've built.
It commands respect. And that, it's the very first impression you have of someone tends to be how you treat them. So if someone walks in imposing, large, you look up to them, like it's going to be hard to tell them to go fuck off because they're an asshole.
And that's why short people are smart and feisty. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen,
fight for it. Yeah, I was like...
And, it's a point Jordan makes very much that there is this power associated with height because, like, why do all the Forsaken hate LTT? Because they're like an inch shorter and just a little less powerful. And those are always the same sentence. And it's like, those are the same thing, right? Height is power. And it's almost explicitly stated a couple of times.
Yeah. And the shortest nation, like the Kyrianen, are portrayed as being like kind of very like conniving and secretive. Right. It's just like, oh, those sneaky short people.
Right, and then the Aiel are just like, I will stab you.
Honorable and wise and
I mean, same thing with like elves are tall and willowy because they are noble, Goblins are short.
Yeah, and dwarves they're industrious, sure, but they're also like they drive a hard bargain and everything has a price and and
they like to eat, which I relate to.
Yeah.
And the Ogier are also like huge, they're like towering,
trees,
tall, noble.
And trees. Everyone looks up to trees. Trees make natural cathedrals, like all of that. Nobody's ever like, yeah, that tree's an asshole.
Are there any short Forsaken? Are any of them described as being like particularly?
Masana?
Yeah,
Masana.
Yeah, she's a small, quiet librarian type, and you always have to look out for the quiet ones.
Denel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would guess that Moghedien's probably of pretty average height.
Yeah, she seems to be the same height. Like, she is equivalent on all levels with Nynaeve, and I think the same height as. And Nynaeve is like 5'5".
Yeah,
maybe?
I mean, still taller than me, but not imposing in any way. Whereas Grandal is like, my boob size is directly correlated to my shoe size.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's the size of your eyes that correlate to power when you're female in the eye of the world, not necessarily your height.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like Lanfear's got big boobs, Grendal's got big boobs. I mean, and they're the two most powerful, and then like it goes down from there.
Oh, wow!
I have a big chest. I feel like I had a discussion with someone where we decided she's.
I
not.
thought it was moderate. Like full and firm, I feel like was the category.
Right, whereas Grandal is like pillowy.
Sure.
Oh yeah, gratuitous. Yeah.
Boobs.
In a good way. I could talk about this all day, but we probably shouldn't.
I don't know if you remember my analogy that men's power is a lot like dick size. You don't see it until they embrace it and use it. Whereas women's power is like boob size. You can see it from a distance and sense it without actually, like, at all times. They can never really hide it.
I'm not touching this.
Well, I remember where I had the boob size discussion. It was with Leslie and Allie and Gus. We had a whole discussion ranking various female characters in the Wheel of Time according to, like, it was a really silly test, but one of the things was their boob power, which was not directly proportional to their boob size. But we were going through a lot of the characters being like, okay, how much boob power do they have, and how much cup size do they have, and like, where do those things fall? That was a really fun conversation. There was some other stuff we talked about, but really boobs.
Yeah. Well, I think you were on the Jeopardy where there was a category called bosoms.
Yes, I was.
Yes. You rocked that category. Well, you rocked all the categories.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bosoms category was a fun one.
I wonder how powerful Tuon would be if she started channeling. That's something I think about.
We don't really know.
Because she'd probably love it once she got over.
Strong personality.
You know.
We know that strong personalities tend to go with high power rankings. So I bet she'd be like in like the top third. I don't think she'd be like record breaking, but she would definitely be very reasonably strong.
Yeah, I don't think she'd be like as strong as like Nynaeve.
No.
Or anything like that. But I think she would be up there. And also because she's of like the same generation as this, like the leaders, you know, of the last battle. So I feel like they're just like extra strong.
I kind of assume she would be just a weak channeler because I just kind of think of the Suldam as just weak channelers, but they're not. They're just non-sparkers.
Right.
And a lot of learners can get pretty powerful once they're taught.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of would assume that she'd be like Nicola, like would have been record setting before all the Supergirls come onto the scene. But Nicola doesn't get discovered until she goes to get tested. So she's not a sparker.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I would assume that she's at, Tuon's at.
Well, I think we've finished up this chapter and veered
and boobs.
And boobs. I think that might wrap up today's episode. Anything else you wanted to touch on?
Rand is going out of a bath and onto a seafolk ship.
Right. And that is what spurs on the final events of
the book. Yeah. Things escalate quickly now that he's taken a bath.
At least he's clean for the battle, right?
Yeah. It would be pretty hilarious if he showed up to the Seafolk ship like in week-old clothes, smelling like
he's like a bag of shit.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they'd actually do to him.
They'd be like, okay, first of all, we're hanging you upside down off the side of the ship and dunking you until you don't stink.
Because I imagine the Seafolk stay pretty clean. They've always got seawater to wash with, and they swim.
Totally.
Yeah. They're
hygienic.
Yeah. They never spend they're never like stuck on a boat stinking.
No. They probably have really, really good hygiene.
For sure.
So imagine like Rand is like, oh, you smell like you've been stuck on a raft for the last like couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, bathing often does start your day. That's sort of how you get going for me anyway, every morning.
And it can be a good way to get out of a funk, a mental funk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should probably do that.
It's a lot of things. I mean, you have a beautiful copper tub behind you.
I know, right? I'll just go
in your estate. So
yes,
I'll call the handmaidens and we'll gather around to
draw me up
for the weekly. Yes, the weekly bathing of Aradia.
I'll even change my shirt. Wow.
Her honor guard. Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need to send in a circle of maidens in there to make sure you bathe? Is that something that we should be working on?
I mean, it might be motivational.
Honor escort.
You never know. Or just send in a cute girl with a bunch of books.
Jay? You're on. No.
Okay. I'll be right there. Let me get my satchel.
But no, seriously, I'm super looking forward to seeing you at SpoilerCon in October. I can't wait for us all to get together in one place at one time again. Seeing you at JordanCon was amazing. That was awesome. I really appreciated hanging out with you there.
Yeah, thanks for being like our warder or part of our clan for the weekend, which was great. I can't wait for SpoilerCon. Yeah, I mean, it was so great that I signed up for SpoilerCon immediately. I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna sign up. Okay, I'll see you.
Yes, I'm so glad you're coming again.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hang out with Aradia.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on to the episode. Always good to talk with you, even if it's not in person.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to listen to this episode.
Oh, it'll be good.
It'll be good.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or
support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?